Brutally honest pieces of financial advice that you may have never considered. The economy is not the issue. So to begin, let's start with the obvious. It is completely true that salaries and wages have not kept pace with the cost of things, especially the cost of housing. But for most people, stagnant salaries are not the cause of their financial hardship. In fact, if you look at the data, there seems to be almost no correlation between someone's income and their financial stability. But if there was a correlation there, we would really only see the lower income class struggling. But this is actually not the case, as according to recent Standard Bank data, 1 in 3 individuals of their prestige client base, which means that they have a higher income than most people, have emergency savings, which means that they are living paycheck to paycheck. And in America, more than 50% of people who earn more than $100,000 per year claim to be living paycheck to paycheck, which is crazy to think about. And I say this as someone who is living in a high cost of living area, prime real estate in Cape Town. But if you can't get by on $100,000 or 2 million rand a year or more, then something is wrong. And I get it. If you're young and single, then this much a year is completely different to when you're older and trying to raise a family. I understand that. But if you're making this kind of money and you can't even pay your basic bills, then there really is only one reason for that. And that is that you're living beyond your means. And it seems that most people do, regardless of what income bracket they are in. If you're barely scraping by but have a large car payment every month, then you are living beyond your means. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, but you're getting Uber Eats or going out to eat multiple times a week simply because you can't be bothered to cook, you're living beyond your means. If you subscribe to every streaming service ever, and if you have more clothing in your cupboard than you can even hold, my friend, you are living beyond your means. Increasing your income always comes with the opportunity to make your life better, to make your life easier. But this is only possible if you know how to manage your finances. Because if you don't, you'll just fall victim to lifestyle inflation, and you will be no further ahead, no matter how much money you are making. Somebody making $75,000 or 1.5 million rand a year, but is living off of $50,000 or 800,000 rand, is objectively doing way better than somebody who is earning $200,000 or 3 million rand a year, but is living off of this full amount, or worse, even more. Because it's not really about how much money you make, it's about how much money you keep. Sure, we can dissect the economy and all of its intricacies and how it affects everyone. But there really isn't a point if you're not willing to take personal accountability of the things that you can control. Unless you can say with full 100% honesty that you're doing everything you possibly can to optimize every dollar or rand that you earn to live within or below your means. And that you're not overspending on things unnecessarily just because you want to. Unless you can say all of that, then the economy and the increase in cost of living is not the problem. And moving on to point number 3, there may have been a time where getting a 4-year degree was more or less a guarantee of landing a good job and having a stable future. But that is just not the case anymore. Everyone that I know personally that is doing very well financially either owns their own business or have gradually built up skills independently over time, which has ultimately allowed them to land a high-paying job, or some combination of these technical or soft skills. And most of the people I know that have a degree work in a completely unrelated field that didn't even require them to get this degree in the first place. So just remember that getting a degree is neither a guarantee nor a prerequisite to a certain wage or salary. With most jobs, you are likely never going to be paid your full worth. And you're not likely to reach financial freedom until you are much older, and that's only if you have managed your finances well for years. As an employer's real job is only to hire staff that is going to provide more value to the company than what these staff are paid. It's business 101 to understand that the less money that you get paid, the more money that the owner of the company gets to keep, or that is paid out to shareholders. But when you're self-employed, whether it's a side hustle or a fully fledged business, you're in complete control of how much money you make. You get to decide what your time and your labor or your services is worth and set your rates accordingly. You can outsource tasks to free up your time, and you can scale your business to whatever size you want, meaning that your earning potential is unlimited. And I honestly think that everyone has at least one skill that is monetizable. One thing that you can do that will pay you a substantially higher rate than your day job ever will. And if your goal is to increase your income, to either create your own schedule or retire early, then self-employment is the most practical way to get there. Now, I touched briefly on car payments in point number 1, and I will make a video about this in the future. But keep in mind that your repeating car payments have complete control over you, and it's way worse than you think. Every single dollar or rand that you put towards your monthly car payment every month is one less that you could use to save and invest for your future, or to pay off debt early, or to actually put towards something that could improve your life. And while yes, you can technically make that argument about anything that you spend money on, but a car is particularly notable, as a moderately expensive car does exactly the same thing as a slightly cheaper car. And in 10 years' time, they will roughly be the same amount, which is not much, by the way. So there's really nothing stopping you from buying a cheaper car in cash, and then taking that extremely expensive to finance monthly payment and investing it into something that will compound and grow into hundreds of thousands of dollars or rands in the long run. Or you could allocate that money towards your housing budget and get yourself into a nicer place to live if you're unhappy with where you currently are, which is the largest expense for most people. If you can't afford to walk into the car dealership and buy that car outright in cash on the spot, then I'm sorry, but you can't afford that car no matter how much they stretch out the monthly payments. And this goes much deeper than with cars. It goes for pretty much anything that you would finance, other than maybe a house. For example, if it is something that is likely going to need to be replaced after it has been paid off or for a short time comparably after, which is the case with vehicles and electronics that are financed. If that's the case, then all you're actually doing is locking yourself into a series of never-ending payments, which you will never get ahead of, because all you'll do is pay, replace, pay again. So yeah, don't finance things that you can't afford to buy if they're just stretching out the monthly payments. You're not doing yourself any favors at all. And that's not even touching on how much extra money you're going to be spending on interest in the long term. Alright, point number 5, which is that building wealth is slow and boring. And I know that that's not what anybody wants to hear, but the truth is that if you're starting from zero today, then you're not going to become a millionaire in a year or two or even 5 to 10 years from now. And I know it seems like everybody on the internet is eager to share with you a course or an ebook to get rich overnight, and their top secret recipe to this. And I hate to break it to you, but if they had the secret sauce, they sure wouldn't be sharing it with you. And honestly, I get it. We're all tired, we all want to break, we all just want to make some quick money, and what's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that, it's just not how it works, unfortunately. The tried and true way to build wealth is to invest consistently, not gamble, but to invest into diversified funds, and then sit back and let compound growth do the work for you over time. That's it. And in absolutely no way, shape or form is this meant to be official investing or financial advice, but I myself predominantly invest in the S&P 500 fund and other total stock market index funds. These both return on average 8% per year, adjusted for inflation, and I also hold a large emergency fund in a high-yield savings account. And keep in mind that the vast majority of professional investors can't even beat the benchmark's returns. So that means you and I definitely can't. As the saying goes, time in the market beats time in the market. So rather than buying low and selling high and trying to predict when that occurs, rather just invest consistently and dollar cost average into the index funds. Because in the long run, you're gonna come out ahead, you're gonna generate wealth, and that's just how you do it. And yes, it's as boring as watching paint dry, but that's how you avoid getting scammed and how you avoid the large fees that these asset managers charge you that you aren't even aware about. And I didn't even have to send you an unnecessarily expensive course on the internet to tell you that. You're welcome. And finally, the 6th piece of brutally honest financial advice that everybody needs to hear is that you're completely wrong about taxes. This one completely blows my mind, as we are all taxpayers to some extent, yet very few people understand how taxes actually work and are screwing themselves as a result. I've personally met people who have been so happy that they've turned down extra overtime hours at work or have rejected a promotion just because they're so scared it will knock them into a higher tax bracket, and that they won't actually get paid for the extra work that they've done, as majority of this extra income will go towards taxes paid. Which is truly the dumbest thing I've heard in my life, as that's not how it works at all in the US, in South Africa, and in majority of countries in the world. The system that is actually used is called a marginal tax system, which means that you only pay tax at those higher rates on the additional income that you've used. So on the portion that is in the next tax bracket, not on all your income. Okay, so that was a very brief explanation. Let me explain using totally made up numbers that are not relevant to everything. They're just used to simplify everything in this situation. And this system will work the same in any country that uses a marginal tax system, even though the brackets and the rates may differ. Let's say that the tax rate on your first $15,000 is 0%. That means that if you only earn $15,000 a year, you would pay no taxes. But if you were offered a job paying $75,000 per year, would you turn it down just because you're going to be taxed? No, because the first $15,000 will still be tax-free. That hasn't changed. You will only be taxed on the extra $60,000. So let's say between $15,000 and $25,000, the tax rate is 20%. That means that you're only paying 20% in taxes on the $10,000 that you got after the first 15, which is $2,000, and between $25,000 and $75,000, just to make this example quicker, the tax rate is 24%, which means that on your $75,000 income, you'll be taxed $2,000 from your income earned in your second tax bracket and $12,000 from the income earned in the third tax bracket. So you will only be taxed on the portion of income that puts you into that next tax bracket. You can earn more money, but you'll only be paying those higher taxes on the additional money that you've earned, not on your entire income. So if somebody offers you overtime hours or a raise, say yes. Alright, that's all I have for you guys in this one. In all honesty, I have a lot more of these points, but I didn't want this video to be like an hour long. And if you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and hit that like button, and feel free to subscribe if you haven't done so already. And I'll see you in my video next week. Bye!